An activist, poet, and best-selling novelist beaten and left to die on the roadside, who was Carlos Bulosan. Mabuhay or in Kapampangan, luwid kayo. Today's question comes from my own uncle in the Philippines. Bapang Jason Pabalan asks, can you tell us more about Carlos Bulosan? At number 1, Carlos Bulosan is best known for being a national best-selling novelist in the United States. In fact, he paved the way by becoming one of the pioneers of Asian American literature. His best-known book, America is in the Heart, was not just one of the earliest Asian American books ever published, but it also remains one of the most influential Asian American books in history. In fact, to this day, America is in the Heart is a required reading in the fields of ethnic studies. At number 2, Carlos Bulosan was a farmer since birth. Carlos Sampayan Bulosan was born on November 24, 1913, to a family of farmers in Binalonan, Pangasinan, in the Philippines. He grew up on the countryside and he experienced firsthand the struggles of an economically impoverished life under the claws of imperialism. And such severe experiences gave Bulosan the strength and the resilience he needed in his later life in the United States. And this brings us to number 3. Carlos Bulosan was a migrant worker. By July of 1930, Carlos Bulosan arrived in the city of Seattle at a young age of only 17. He was one of the countless young Filipino men who were brought in as cheap labor from the Philippines. Later known in history as the Manong generation, they were one of the earliest waves of Filipino migrant workers, or as we call them today, OFWs. He was part of the early waves of Filipinos who were forced out of their motherland to seek a better living and a decent life abroad. They were lured in by the promises of the American dream, only to face exploitation, racism, violence, and other forms of oppressions and injustices in what is supposed to be the land of the free. With barely any money in his pockets, the young Bulosan, like many other Manongs, had to go through a series of low-paying and abusive jobs to make ends meet. In their desperation, they were forced to endure the hardships and the exploitation of workers commonly faced by peoples of color in the United States. These were hard conditions that remains a reality to many in America today. Bulosan worked many jobs, hard manual labor, from the canneries of Alaska to harvesting grapes and asparagus in the scorching hot fields of California. Bulosan even became a dishwasher, and he also entered into a lot of odd jobs throughout the West Coast. At number 4, Bulosan was very sick. On top of these oppressive labor conditions, Bulosan and the Manongs had to face racism, violence, and discriminatory living conditions, all just to avoid starvation and to put a roof over their heads. These realities of life in the United States shattered the American dream that Uncle Sam had once promised them and continues to promise millions today. This life of poverty and injustices also shattered Bulosan's own health. For many years, he would suffer various illnesses, including the dreadful tuberculosis. He even lost most of his right ribs and had to survive with only one functioning lung. But such hardships in life did not stop him from leaving a legacy behind, a heroic legacy for many generations to come. At number 5, Bulosan's reputation was ruined by the FBI. Bulosan wrote and published many books, essays, poems, novels, and even short sketches, which is why many today remember him as a great writer. But many are also unaware of his strong activism. His life experiences did not only teach him how to pick up a pen, but it also opened his eyes to the injustices of the world. Apart from being a great writer, Bulosan was also a passionate labor organizer. In fact, it was because of his labor or union organizing that he was put under surveillance by the FBI. And even after 6 years of being under watch, the FBI had found nothing to prove Carlos Bulosan was connected to any communist conspiracies. But despite this, the FBI had tarnished Carlos Bulosan's reputation, causing his career to fall apart and earning him the derogatory nickname Penniless Drunk. At number 6, Carlos Bulosan almost died because of his activism. At one point while organizing agricultural workers in California, Carlos Bulosan was beaten badly. He was beaten almost to death by the goons hired by the employer. He was left to die out in the streets while his companion, a fellow Filipino, was killed on the spot. Luckily, Bulosan survived, all thanks to a good Samaritan who happens to be driving by. She was also an exploited worker who was forced into prostitution because because of the Great Depression. And it was in the hospitals that Carlos Bulosan mastered the English language and used it to champion the rights and the welfare of the working people. And even after losing one of his lungs, Carlos Bulosan continued fighting the struggle for social and economic justice, while at the same time becoming a badass writer and a hero for many generations to come. And at number 7, Carlos Bulosan was not just a national best-selling novelist, but he was also the true embodiment of a scholar activist serving the people. He was a hero whose enduring legacy is to fight for what is right and to give voices to the struggles of those forgotten and exploited by society. Unfortunately, he never had the chance to return to the Philippines. He passed away on September 11, 1956, at the age of only 42. But his legacy lives on in the lives of countless scholars, activists, and scholar activists. In fact, today we are honoring his legacy by working towards opening the first of its kind Bulosan Center for Filipino Studies. Many of us are working together to continue the legacy of Carlos Bulosan by advancing research, education, and advocacy for historical and contemporary issues faced by Filipinos in the United States, back home in the Philippines, and across the seas. Join us this September 29, 2018 for the Filipino Community Policy Symposium and Tumulong Tayo Benefit Dinner here at UC Davis. Help us continue the legacy of Carlos Bulosan. Donate today and help us make the Bulosan Center a reality. For more information on how you can help, please check out the links in the video description below. And that is it for me today. If you like this video and learn a thing or two, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help me make more videos like this, show your support and please be my patron. Takalpong salamat. See you next time, or in Tagalog, kita kits, and in Kapampangan, Mikitix.